Hello, time for a bit of cherry. Just a simple bowl. Now it's a little bit compromised, the piece of wood I'm using. Generally I wouldn't recommend using wood with splits in it, but I'm making a present for someone and this is the piece of wood I really want to use. Now this split goes a little way, about 1 inch down, 1.25 inches in here. So I'm hoping that I can turn that away in the curve of the bowl, which means I've got to have this as the top. There's another little bit of compromised wood here. This little line here might be a little feature that will detach itself. I'm not entirely sure. I can't really tell from the grain. So that's what I'm going to be working with on this this little project. So I'm going to roughly find the center using a center finder, drill a hole, put it on a screw chuck, and then because it's got these splits in, I'll bring a tailstock up as well, just to make it a little bit safer. So check I've got the top right. There we go. I've got a pencil somewhere. I've just put a few lines across the blank. See how round I managed to bandsaw it. Right, so the screw chuck that goes in, I need the chuck key over here. Just bring you in much closer. So the channel here goes between the jaws, go into that, close onto it. Generally put the flats onto where the jaw is, and make sure when you've got it held within those jaws that you don't push it in, but you pull it out and then tighten up good and tight. Then we can wind that on. There we go. Once the thread starts cutting, generally you're fine. That will probably do. And not a huge amount of pressure on there either, just enough to hold it, pinch it in place. Running at about 580. Opening up that crack a bit more. The smell in here is just absolutely delicious. Right, so I'm going to start cutting across this edge now, and I want to move my tool rest a bit to have it better supported on that edge. There we go, that's clearing it. I'll come onto the overhead so you can see that a little better. Now it is important with wood with features that you keep stopping to check what you're uncovering, and this is still looking pretty much as I imagined it would, so let's keep going. Okay, reposition our tool rest. Let's carry on, bringing it to balance and taking more of this crack out. Just a little bit of it left there. And I'm now coming to the part here where there might be a little bit of excitement. So I'm going to come in from this side now. A bit of torn grain there, but it's looking pretty solid, but we're not round yet. Better than it was though. Still got that crack there, but I think we must be getting near to having cleared it all out. Sometimes you can put a little step in and that gives you another view of it. Right, so I can see there, if I come onto the tailstock, it seems to stop. I seem to have got to the depth of it there. I'll just give one more cut there, just to have a look. Yeah, that's it, finished. So I can turn the rest of that away into the shape of my bowl. And it's all gone. Thank goodness. Good. Meters roughly. Oh, easy to do it under power. So I've given myself a couple of steps here. This is going to be what it's held in, and I'm giving myself an opportunity to have a bit more of a foot there. So let's get those sides of that sorted out. So we've still got so there's still a fair bit of bark inclusion in the top here. So a bit more to come out. Come out. It feels nice just off the tool. Right, what I need to do now is get the front face established and see how far this goes. This little bit of bark, which is a little bit annoying. Now I can feel it juddering as it's cutting over there, which is suggesting it's not quite all gone yet. There's just a little bit of it left here and here. So I'll creep up on it slowly. And what you can see me doing as I'm approaching this central boss, instead of keeping the flute open, pointing up, where if it catches, that right wing catches, it's going to be a nasty catch. As I'm approaching that central boss, just roll the tool over and close the flute. It'll sit there without cutting, it'll be fine. Whereas that is going to give you a nasty dig in. Oh, and we've got a little hole. Drats. It's still there, so we're going to have to make this a bit wider rimmed, and I think I'll fill that, otherwise I'm going to lose any sort of shape that this bowl might have. Right, so you can see here on the rim I've left it quite wide, but I've got a little split that I need to get rid of. There's a little hole here as well that probably I'll need to fill, and it's about 1 inch thick everywhere, so that's far too thick. Now often this point here is where you end up being a little bit thick. There's a bit of a tendency to want to start turning that corner a little too soon. And I've got a little undercut on the rim there. I don't want to make it much thinner than that because I don't want it to be too thin in the hand. But there it's about half as thick again as round at this point. Now you might notice that my bevel on this tool is a little bit agricultural, shall we say. Been doing some freehand sharpening. There's not much of this tool left. So let's have a feel. That's a little more even, still a little thick there in comparison. The other thing I've got going on is this is quite a long bevel and I can feel it rubbing, and you can see here little bevel marks that are left from that rubbing. So we'll deal with those in a moment. Clean the rim up. Where's that little hole? It's still there. Going to be an interesting little feature. Now when you're coming round and you've got a boss in the middle here, I've said it before in other videos, you don't want to have your flute open. You want to close it so that it'll sit there and it will just run against there without doing any damage. If you have it turned like this, you see you get quite a big scrape, you'll get a big catch. So as you're coming round, your flute is pointing up, turn it so that it's 90 degrees, it's pointing to 3 o'clock. Alright, so I've got that a little bit thinner now, and I can just blend this curve together. And the ideal is to get a nice smooth curve, same thickness all the way round to the bottom. So now let's get this bottom sorted out. Tool rest is slightly high. If I show you on the reverse, you can see I'm really cutting with the tool quite almost horizontal. So I want to bring that tool rest down a little bit so the handle's a little bit lower. So let's do that now. And you can see those cuts being made. So the handle now is lower. That's giving me a bit of clearance between the tool and my body and not keeping it up, and you're getting a bit more of control with the cut. So I'll come in close for you on this one. So the handle is now lower. You can practice taking out the middle point, which is often one of the problem areas, so you can use this bit as a practice. Slow down as you're cutting across. And then just catch a little pip in the middle there. It's not the best of finishes in the middle, but this is why you can use this to practice. It's better to leave a little point sticking out than to do this. And lever off that inside, because you get damage, you get a little dip in the bottom. You don't want that. There, that was a better example of pushing across the bottom. And can you see I've got a little impression in there? Now if that was the bottom of your bowl, you'd be a bit miffed about that. Point. And what I'm aiming for is for the curve to be continuing all the way down to the bottom. Let's just have a look at that. Yeah, that seems a similar thickness all the way round. Going to put some food safe finish on this because it's going to be used for food. Right, I'm going to leave that food safe finish just to soak in. Go and put the oven on for my lamb moussaka Saturday lunchtime treat. It's probably going to be the best bit of the day. Okay, that's had time to dry off. Just give it a little buff to remove any excess. And this is a sheet of safety cloth, so if it does get snagged it will tear, but it's still not worth wrapping it around your fingers, so hold it flat in your hands. And I've left that hole, I haven't done anything with it. It's an open and honest bowl. I mean, if you wanted to get rid of it, what you can do is get a bit of dust and a bit of super glue in there. But I think it's a little reminder of the impermanence of things. Right, so let's get this out of the chuck. There's the right chuck key. So all that's left to do with this is to get rid of the little tenon on the back. So I'll reverse hold it in my cold jaws or my Longworth chuck and just take that foot off the bottom, and then we will have a very nice little cherry bowl. It's a nice size to hold in one hand for a few nuts and things in, and I hope the person I give it to as a present appreciates it and likes it. As long as I don't muck it up when I turn the bottom off, of course. But I think of all of the rechucking methods that are available, this one is the most flexible. On a cold jaw, if your buttons aren't in the right place, you've got to take them all out and put them back in. These ones, the action of pulling the spirals together means you can probably get it chucked up much more quickly. Tool rest into the right position. Now you've got to run this chuck slowly. You don't want to be running it super fast. So speed right down. And running just at a few hundred. And then very light cuts. Tool rest is slightly low. I'm using a smaller gouge, so let's get that up so I can cut comfortably at centre height with it. Now I want to put a little hollow on this so it'll sit on the outside edge. And just on a side note, if you're getting lovely little curly shavings like this coming off, then you know your tool is sharp. If you're getting flat, no curl at all, then you need to get a fresh edge on your gouge. Okay, so that's nice and even. Just want to turn the dovetail part of this off. And then blend it into the bottom of the bowl. Take this bit slowly, you don't want to muck it up. Take the dust off with the tack cloth. Just a little bit of the food safe finish over that freshly cut area. Although the sanding up to 400 has given a nice smooth look. There we go, probably only need a tiny little bit of it, and that will finish off our bowl. Just dry that off with a bit of friction. Obviously taking care of the buttons that we've got flying around out here. Okay, just leave that to dry off. There's a little bit out here excess. Just going to rub that in. You can see here you obviously don't want to do this with the wood spinning with these. Even though they're covered with rubber, they would give you quite a nasty little knock. Right, taking it out time. So that's just a case of undoing these wing nuts at the back. It always feels like there are more than 8 of these. Is that enough to loosen off? Yeah, there we go. They're loosened off, and out comes our bowl. And what have we got? A nice thinnish. Might be a tiny bit thinner at the very bottom than it is round there. But I'm very pleased with that. Lovely pattern and figure in this cherry, which was a gift from a couple in Hove who had a tree come down. And now that I've got it to a state where it's actually dry enough, it's been a year or so, to start using, I'll have to make them something next. Right, it's a little bit tacky still on the outside from that last little bit of what's it called, food safe finish. So I'll let that dry off, and then I'll buff it with a soft cloth, a bit of safety cloth. You can see there the base, a nice little feature. When that's standing up, I think that's going to look very nice and attractive. Thanks for watching. I think it's coloured enough by nature. Nature.